For plebs, by plebs, dropping the Bitcoin only signal. Pleb Underground. Welcome everyone to the Pleb Underground.
Pleb Underground, episode 44. A little while since I dropped 44. Happy birthday, 44. A little later, fall to the floor. She wants more, so I'm going to go get her. More plebs rhyming. I'm a real trendsetter. Energy distributor, a real go-getter. Like Bitcoin were number one. There ain't no better. The world is but a stage, and all the players merely actors. Bitcoin is money for the internet age. Will it win? Depends on many factors. Many factors, not like prime, trust. Game theory better when you must. Collaborate like mutual lust. Fuck shitcoins.com, not sorry to cuss. She likes the pow and my brain like wow. Each week I be ripping. I got fans now I'm tripping. Fresh like the air, Bitcoin nowhere, like underwear. Please stop and stare. Many new bars, very few I repeat. Here in pages, very few I now tweet. Ideas they come, new words they fleet. In and out like the reverb on a beat. EDM, dubstep, drum and bass. Politicians, they like to divide us by race. Don't fall for their tricks, pulled by two-faced pricks, just to save face. For you, no Cantillon embrace. Senators act like they don't know what the fuss is. Riding in the backseat of limos, not buses. Visiting each city, Rosa Parks. Schools elementary, bosons, quarks. Leaked is the time when I pick up my phone. Voicemail disabled, so no recorded drone. Lightning transactions, they get flown. Node to node, I'm in my zone. I'm in my channel. Node crypto cloaked with the Genesis panel. Yo, represent, the girl needs a flannel. This CypherSafe like a Bitcoin annal. Other shows sponsored by the old same pricks. Ours always Team Bulls for the win, like Jordan, Game 6. Collect another sat, done. With my BF, bangs. Protect from the big hun, SPF, changs. Bitcoin is truth. It never does lie to us. It keeps coming back like an old retro virus. Infectious but not vintage. There's no private mintage. Bitcoin is voluntary. Can't push or pull it like Blade. Cutting edge but no silver bullet. Bitcoin is Kenny. You know you can't kill it. Time is money. So be sure you bill it. Can stacking sats really be an addiction? Saving for the future ain't a high time pref affliction. Bitcoin is truth. The bestseller non-fiction. Price will moon with supply side constriction. That means you learn fuck IOUs, not just lame ducks like injured OUs. Chip off the next block, this one is for Kelly. Want to play with the pros, can't get beat up on telly. I frustrate others, always switching the topic. Wear glasses, zoom out, can't be myopic. Gotta see clearly each time you look. Unlike FTX Alameda, you can't face the book. Listen closely, this is the metaverse. Each time I write, rhyme, first take, no rehearse. I like when it's sunny, not when it's shady, Slim. Workout cut down, but not to be lady, Slim. No one wants an e-thought from Twitch nor Bumble. Free speech maxi, but no itch for Rumble. Like Kendrick said, bitch, sit down, be humble.
That's right, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Pleb Underground. And joining us today, we've got fellow Bitcoiner and Pleb, Humble Warrior. Humble Warrior, thank you so much for joining us on the Pleb Underground. It's awesome to have you.
Happy to be here, guys.
Very cool. Very cool. All right. Well, we're going to start our journey. We are going to move on over to the numbers.
The numbers, of course, brought to us by TimeChain Stats and TimeChain Calendar. Phil, what do the numbers look like this week?
At the time of this recording, the block height is 796,605. The Bitcoin fiat exchange price, or fiat Bitcoin exchange price, 30,349. The total public lightning capacity, 5,447.40 BTC. And big change, actually, in the chain rewrite days, guys. We're talking 691 days. Bit of a difference, right? That was a bit of a drop. I guess maybe there was a difficulty adjustment recently. That could be what happened.
Yeah, so if there's a drop in number of days for chain rewrite, that means there's been a recent surge in hash rate, usually, because you're essentially saying, oh, the total amount of energy expended divided by the current hash rate is this number of days, essentially, right?
Yeah.
So if the hash rate goes up, that number goes down. Of course, as time goes on, new blocks are added. There is also additional work, but that's I guess that's relative. I don't know if that's relatively linear. I guess it can't be because of the difficulty adjustment. we need to get a miner on the show to explain this a bit better, probably, Phil. But there is, you see what I mean? There's two things changing here. We have the difficulty adjustment, meaning that actually you get, in general, more work needed to mine each block as the total global hash rate increases. But as total global hash rate increases, the number of days to rewrite the chain should decrease because you're looking at some fixed historical amount being divided by an increasing number.
I just know that it takes a lot of hash power and over 600 days, and you need over 51% of those miners in order to do any kind of damage, and that is going to cost so much money. Bitcoin network is just incredibly secure. That to me is the takeaway. I like to simplify it because I'm a simpleton. So,
but I think that's the number of chain rewrite days, assuming you had 100% of the hash fill, not assuming you had. Do you see what I mean? And so actually, it's way more if you want 51%.
You need to have more than 51%.
It's not as simple as double. It's not as simple as double either.
That's a good point. Okay, we're gonna move on to some fun number stuff here. Here we go, guys. This actually was a funny tweet that came out today. This is why we always tell you can't listen to the shitcoiners, because the shitcoiners, they don't, like, a lot of them don't do any research. Okay, and this was just a long thread, okay, about some hex shitcoiner that hopped in, and he goes, "What if I?" And he's talking to Greg Zaj, fellow Bitcoiner, and he goes, "What if I told you that the 21 million cap is horseshit?" Okay, so Greg responds back and goes, "I would just run get TXOU set info." And he responds back with question marks. And then Greg comes back with, "Oh, that's fucking hilarious." Now, guys, I'm sorry, but I found that I had to take a screenshot of that and retweet it because it's absolutely marvelous. This is exactly the point, right? You really have to wonder about shitcoiners that shill you these things, right? These absolute dreadful affinity scams, and have no idea what total supply is, and have no idea that you can actually verify the total supply of Bitcoin. I mean, that is just absolute magic. Don't get me wrong.
Phil, who needs truth when you've got number go up? No, but number go up. $.
We're gonna move on. We're gonna move on to another numbers piece. Get everybody's and Humble. I definitely want to get your opinion on this, because I think that at some point, right, there's always these disputes in Bitcoin, right? Like bits versus sats, right? There's always these nuanced debates. So this is, I think, a really interesting one that was brought up by Seed Signer, wondering if the expression key phrase would be a better choice than seed phrase. And he says, on its face, the answer is yes. But within a key phrase, you have keywords, which are what people think of using for an online search. Perhaps private key phrase and private keywords. Okay. So I'm gonna start with you, Humble. Just your thoughts, just in general, on the term seed phrase. Do you think it, I mean, like, what are your thoughts on that, just in general? Right? Like
it's hard for people to grasp that when they're first coming in. I mean, it's, if you're trying to get people to put their Bitcoin into cold storage, on a signing device, it would make sense to incorporate the keywords and say, well, these are the keywords that you would use instead of seed phrase. Because seed phrase is like, well, why is it a seed phrase? What is the seed phrase? Is it a phrase? Because it isn't, right? I mean,
it isn't. It actually, it's not a proper.
I mean, maybe for some people it is. I mean, I don't know, but yeah.
Okay, so let me ask you this before we speak to Walton about this. What are your thoughts on that debate? Would you think it would be better if it would be changed or not? I'm personally on the fence. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, it's like, what are you changing it for? Are you changing it for more adoption to bring people in so they're not as confused? Is that the reason? Or, I mean, for that reason, I think it makes sense.
That's the only reason
I do like the idea. Yeah. It's always tough to change things, and people are used to hearing seed phrase, but I think that we can get over it. I mean, we're so early that you can make these changes, I guess. So I think that it's a worthy conversation to have, and just kind of see what everybody thinks. So what were the comments in there like? I didn't get to see that part.
Here, we're going to pull them up.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. Just wondering.
Absolutely.
It's interesting that they struck up that conversation about that. Have you heard this talked about at all anywhere else recently?
first, to be honest, this is the first time. I mean, I've thought of it myself, but you know, like it's like many things, right? You know, you think a million things and, you know, you act on them. But when I saw this, I found this very interesting because I'm like, you know what? I can see that because to your point, when I first got into Bitcoin, I had to go look up what that meant right away. You know, I was like, okay, what is this thing that they're talking about? Like, I know it's important because of the way it's referenced, but I don't get it, you know? So yeah, it was definitely foreign, but here's some of the comments. Here's one from Zuko, and good thinking. Seed phrase is definitely a bad choice. Comes from thinking about the implementation. Let's take a look at some others.
Well, one comment I have here is that the terminology needs to be compatible. You can't just think up good expressions for each individual thing, and then teach all these individual things, and because the normies go, wait, why does this and this and this have anything to do with each other? Because they've been named from different ideologies or different derivations. You need to have like one coherent concept where all of the terminology fits in. You know, I'm a huge proponent of the term signing device over hardware wallet because the coins aren't in it, for fuck's sake. And for some of these things, they don't store the seed. Seed signer being a perfect example. Seed signer is a signing device, but does not have a key ring that other people want to call other kind of signing devices. I think signing device encapsulates all of them. Yes, some of them also store the seed. Some of them can, you know, generate seeds offline. All this sort of thing. There's a whole bunch of different factors, but we need to have, terminology that interlinks. And I think, if you've got something, I don't know, to me, if anything, it's more like a key that unlocks your signing device.
Yeah, like a key code or so, you know, like that would make sense in my mind, but
I saw some.
But then some people want to say, oh, but that is the Bitcoin. And I kind of think that's a bit stupid. Like, it's not. That's the key that accesses you being able to move the Bitcoin. Right? Like, we don't deal with Bitcoin. We deal with managing keys for Bitcoin. There's a key distinction. For the vast majority of people, you make transactions as well, but still, you're not. There is no Bitcoin. It's a ledger. There are no coins. There are only UTXOs.
Exactly. Which is a whole other, right? Which is a whole other layer of complication when you're trying to explain that. So, but I do agree with you, though. We should have some generally accepted terms that you know that are cohesive, that everybody can understand, that does make sense. Now, one thing I was trying to say before was that some people also mentioned, instead of using the word private, use the word secret, right? So like a secret key, because to a certain extent, it is secret. Well, it's not secret to, it's kind of complicated, right? Because it's secret to us.
Maybe sovereign's a better word there.
Maybe sovereign.
Sovereign key.
Anyways, guys, what do you think? That wraps up the numbers. And we are going to move it on over to our guest discussion. The guest discussion is brought to you by CypherSafe. Check them out, CypherSafe.io. Paper is not good enough. Indeed, you can use paper, but it's totally destructible. You need something that's better than paper, that's pretty much indestructible. Check out the Cypher Grid, and it comes with an awesome little punch tool. Check them out at CypherSafe.io. If you like Bitcoin art, also check out from CypherSafe.io the Bitcoin Rolo Triangle, made of 100% titanium. 16 ounces. It's absolutely beautiful Bitcoin physical art. Check it out, the Bitcoin Rolo Triangle at CypherSafe.io. Welcome back. We are joined today by fellow Bitcoiner and pleb, Humble Warrior. Humble, it's absolutely awesome that you've decided to come on Pleb Underground. And I mean, like, you and I have definitely had some interesting conversations about what's going on these days in the Bitcoin space. But before we dive into some of that, if you can, like, tell us a little bit about the rabbit hole story, because I don't think I actually know it, and I'm always a fan of the rabbit hole stories.
Well, as with many rabbit hole stories, and thank you for having me on the show. I appreciate you guys. I love both of you. Yeah, it's awesome. So as with many rabbit hole stories, there's actually quite a few different ways this can go. So I'll try to keep it short, and it's probably the most impactful part of my story, and it has to do with banks. We love them, don't we? Yes. So I actually was momentum trading back in 2021 in the traditional markets. The market wasn't awesome, so I pulled my money and decided I'd go into cryptocurrency because you can trade it 24/7, and doesn't that sound like so much fun, and a lot more flexibility. So I thought I'd give it a shot, and everything was just doing great. Everything was going up, up, up until it wasn't. But with that said, that was my experience getting into cryptocurrency in general, not Bitcoin. And then I joined Twitter to keep an eye on Elon Musk, because whenever he tweeted, things seemed to happen. And I'm like, okay, you know what? Fine. I'm just going to get on here. And whenever he tweets, at least I'll know what's going on. You see SPY tanking, and it's like, all right, now this is what I have to do. So that's how I ended up on Twitter, and then started following a couple different Bitcoiners. And I really didn't know much about Bitcoiners in general, but I came across a video from Jack Mallers, and when he had announced that El Salvador was going to be adopting Bitcoin as legal tender, I just thought, well, okay, well, this is interesting. Like what is this all about? It's not like all the other ones. Like how? And the really impactful part of it was he was crying. Like he was very emotional about this, and I needed to know more. So I learned more, and did my due diligence. And there were a couple Twitter spaces where actually Nayib Bukele was in one of the spaces, and I think his brother was as well. And so I was able to hear a little bit more, and just started listening to different people speak about Bitcoin and what it means to them, why they get into it. Spaces was pretty early, in 2021, it had just launched. And so everyone was getting to know each other at that time. And I was dealing with a situation at that time as well, that our bank had helped our builder steal money from us, essentially. So we have a historic home. We were getting a remodel done on the home, and you go to banks thinking, okay, well, this is a project we want to have done. You guys are going to manage everything. Everything's going to be great. This is the old me. This isn't what actually happens. We know that now. And they mismanaged the funds. When I questioned them about due diligence, like, how can you literally send the same amount twice? Like how can you do these things? I was told that they only have so many people to go over the paperwork, and everybody was refinancing their homes at the time. So, it's really overwhelming for them. So the result of that, interestingly enough, is, that when a contractor does not pay its subcontractors, which is what ended up happening in this case. When I say that the contractor stole money from us and the bank facilitated it, it helped to facilitate it unknowingly, but they still did it. The subcontractors can place a lien on your home. So they place a lien on your home. That means that you can owe various subs however much money, but if you don't pay them, and you would be paying them again because the bank had already taken the money, right? Yeah. Then they can place a lien on your home, and then the bank can take your house. So whatever equity you have in the home, whatever, so I started, thank goodness that I had learned about Bitcoin. I was learning about Bitcoin at the time. And it just meant so much more to me, because I'm like, these laws are set up for the bank. Like this is an archaic law. First of all, people don't own their homes outright anymore. This isn't the 50s. Everyone has a mortgage on their home, basically. So yeah, it was very interesting that, in going through that experience, I then could see what people were talking about in spaces about banks, and then, deal with the situation and be educated on what these laws are about, and probably why they haven't been changed. Because, part of my experience was like, oh, I want to advocate for change. This is happening to us. And it happened to like 6 other families. But I want to help people in the future. And I just, like, how are you going to do that? They're not going to change the law. The banks are like, cool, we'll take your house. No problem.
Stupid question.
So,
Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
No, no, it's fine.
Oh, no, I had a question for you because you said 6 other families. Was it all the same builder?
It was, yeah. It's kind of one of those, I don't know. So the builder was highly vetted, and this is another one of my experiences. This guy had an amazing reputation in the community. He had a beautiful like office space. He had all these employees. They were just far superior to every other builder in the area, and very highly recommended. My husband had quite a few people that had come to him and said, yeah, totally go with this guy. He's amazing. So he was quite vetted, but this happened during COVID. And so this scheme that he had planned just collapsed, and it just stopped working for him. And there's various ways as to how I figured out, what actually had come through. I mean, it was very interesting, but that's a whole other story, the investigation that ensued. So yeah, if that answered the question.
Yeah, no, it absolutely did. And the banks, I also, have had terrible experiences with banks in Canada specifically. And not that that makes a difference, because a bank is a bank, but the point is that it's exactly what you said, right? They, essentially the framing from a bank is, we're protecting you. Okay. But the reality is that all of those rules are set up to protect themselves. That's all it is. Like, you are a liability somehow. Okay. Somehow you're the liability, even though it's your money, and they are protecting themselves from you with your assets. This is psychotic. This is totally psychotic. Anyways, Humble, thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing that, for sharing that story. I mean, it is absolutely, it's really brutal. You just have one of those experiences with an institution, and it just completely burns you. And I guess just to follow up, are you able to share where you are with that whole situation now? Like, do you have any recourse with the bank? Do you have any recourse with this builder? Like, I just feel like you're like stuck,
It went on for a very long time. I mean, we're still not completely settled, but we were able to, excuse me, we were able to, we won our lawsuit against the bank. And it was kind of another one of those situations where, okay, the bank has like 1 million lawyers. Okay, they don't, but they have a lot of lawyers. They out-lawyered us. And that's the situation that it was. They have to defend themselves. So at some point you just have to say, okay, this is probably the deal that we're just going to have to settle with. Knowing about Bitcoin and being in the space helped me to also see, because this is before interest rates started raising. So when they were, before they were even thought about, I guess, it's just, we kept on getting that vibe in the space. Bitcoiners were talking about it. They're like, well, this is happening and this is happening. So it's only a matter of time. And I said, we need to settle with a better interest rate on our mortgage. That's going to be one of these things that's going to help us long-term and be more valuable. So that was one of the parts of the settlement. We also were able to pursue the financial controller, because he had a part in it as well. But the builder claimed bankruptcy. So we had to hire another lawyer and go to bankruptcy court to defend ourselves. A couple other homeowners did that, but for the most part, it was the subs that did not get paid. So they also were represented there. And so that's, it basically means nothing. You maybe get a payment one month, you don't get another one, so who knows how that's going to transpire, but it's peanuts. And then there's another part of the lawsuit that you win, and I don't even understand it, but it's basically like, you'll be awarded this amount of money if this happens someday, but it probably won't happen. And it's like, cool, whatever. So we're still financially recovering from it. It was horrible. The lawyer fees alone were insane, just absolutely insane.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I'm really sorry for this story. Again, I've heard the story in person in Miami. It's nice to see you again there. But yeah, very, very frustrating story indeed. It's unsurprising that everyone has a mortgage because that's the cheapest credit you can get. So the fiat world's incentivizing you into leveraging up by getting a mortgage, especially because for the vast majority of people, actually having equity in a home has historically been a way to preserve some value. And so if you're leveraging it, so essentially they're making leverage plays on preserving their value. But if you know any French, it literally means death contract. More is the word death, and gauges. It means a contract. You are the state is in general is heavily incentivized to try to provide mortgages because yes, it keeps people tethered to being productive members of society. I guess you could say it's a symptom of the fiat world, and lawyers, of course, some of the worst. Like I would say that lawyers, politicians, and journalists are the trifecta of evil. I think lawyers are probably the worst of the three, to be quite honest. And the reason we all love Bitcoin is because it's money without lawyers. Is a distinction I like to make. It's mathematicians and computer scientists essentially removed lawyers from money. I think that's the most beautiful thing, potentially about Bitcoin. But I have a couple of questions for you, Humble. The first one, you're going to need to tell us about the Doge bags that you had. You mentioned Elon, so I feel like you're hinting at you were a big Doge. Did you buy Doge before Bitcoin? And then finally, you're actually humble, which is rare for someone who calls themselves humble. And is this akin to making yourself like publicly responsible for being humble? That you have to hold yourself to that because you're some of your thoughts. Doge and humility.
All right. Yeah. Okay. So Doge, that's funny. So when Elon would tweet, it would dump the traditional markets, right? I mean, that's what was happening at the time. So I would be momentum trading. So momentum trading is a practice where you're looking at like the 5-second chart, 10-second chart, 1 minute, 5-minute chart. It's like you want to get in and out as quickly as possible. So if you're in a trade and then all of a sudden, it's going down, you would also have SPY pulled up and you'd be like, whoa, what's going, like you'd be watching that flow and it just tank. And this is when he was tweeting about Bitcoin initially. So, but yes, Doge, I did. My kids came to me and said, hey, look at this. And they'd show me the TikTok and they're like, oh, yeah, like, look how much money they made. It's like insane if you get in. And I like put it off. They came to me and they're like, dude, you should do this. So I was like,
wait, so you got
okay,
Doge because your kids pitched you on it? This is incredible.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, and yeah. And you're dealing with this situation with the banks and the construction. So I'm like, well, okay, let's figure this out. Like I'm in a gambling stage of trading. So let's do this. And God, just to even figure out how to buy it at the time. Oh my God. Like I had no idea. I think I downloaded like Dogecoin mining I don't even know. I downloaded something stupid because this is before Bitcoin. So I was just like, oh, I'll download this and it will work. And it's great. And then Kraken was like, I was like, how do you buy Dogecoin? And I mean, I sound like I'm 75 years old right now, but I had no clue. I had no freaking clue. I think I got some, but it was never a whole lot because it was frankly a big pain in the ass to buy because not everyone had Dogecoin. And then he went on Saturday Night Live and it like didn't do what it was supposed to do. Right. I mean, it was kind of pitiful. And I'm not an Elon hater. It's just that's what happened. So, all right. So the next question was, I remember the last one. Walton, what was the second one?
Yeah, I think it was just the last one, I guess, really. No, did you buy Doge before Bitcoin? Was the middle one?
Yes, I did. Yeah. Because I was trading.
So
remember before?
What number was Bitcoin in your journey? I guess.
Yeah, I got in at the top. So I think it was like, I started Okay, this is the other part, I guess. I'll just really quickly try to summarize this. So when I learned a little bit about Bitcoin, I was Googling everything. So I came across these articles and they said, you only need like 0.01 Bitcoin and you'll have $1 million in the year 2030. So I was like, oh, okay, I'll start dollar cost averaging on Cash App. That sounds perfect.
Someone
That's
called
awesome.
JJ.
Yeah. So I did, but they took a while because I started at like 45,000, I think is when I
meant how many shitcoins did you buy before you bought Bitcoin?
Well, I bought them, but then I got rid of them.
But I mean, well, like how many like gross things did you touch before you touched
a lot.
Bitcoin, so to speak? Not gold, because it's not gold. It's
Oh no, like Shiba Inu and ADA, like Cardano, because I was really impressed with that Africa initiative that they had. Yeah, I thought Cardano, if I had recommended anything, any Ethereum, I mean, definitely had all those because they were cheaper, and that's what I saw it as. I was like, oh, it's a big number. I mean, it's really. Why would I start doing that now? It's already so high. And that's the trading mentality too. It's like, why would you get in when it's at its highest? So I'm one of those plebs that's kind of sad when the price starts going up because I haven't stacked enough yet.
But I think it's very like skin surface, like what do you call it? Like surface level trader. If you think that shitcoins, like that you should trade shitcoins because there's no liquidity. And so the liquidity kind of comes and goes very quickly on the shitcoins, right? They essentially all the whales just pile into different things, bouncing around, coordinating it with old Brucey down in Dubai.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I'm sorry. I was just gonna say when you find out that there's no liquidity in the shitcoins, not when you're buying them, when you're trying to sell them. There's plenty of liquidity when you're buying them. But
because exchanges will sell you there.
Everybody go.
Exchanges will sell you there. The exchanges don't want to buy it. The exchanges want to collect your Bitcoin and sell you shitcoins.
Exactly. So Humble, what was the? I'm very curious because look, I remember in my journey.
So just finally, Phil, she needs to answer the question about being the most humble person in the world. No, not quite.
Yeah, that's way more important than what I was going to say.
Oh my God.
Is this about like holding yourself publicly accountable? Is the term I was looking for earlier? Is that what this is about? Calling yourself humble Bitcoiner?
Okay, so so Humble Warrior is actually this. It's a combination of two traders that I followed. One was Humble Trader, and the other was Warrior Trading. And they both had different philosophies, and I took a course with one of them.
I'm so disappointed. Like you've got the name has shitcoin origins.
No. They weren't into.
Bring your friends on the show, and they let you down.
Market, hey, no, but it's a part of me. So I think that. I did when you mentioned, is it a way of holding myself accountable publicly too? Like there have been times in the beginning, now I'm not as, I guess, afraid to express myself. But in the beginning I was like, well, is that really humble? Is that really humble to say? Like, should I really do that? Like, I don't want to have people think I'm this mean, because we went through that whole thing online too, with like our Bitcoin maximalists toxic, and they're so and that was like this learning experience for me too, where it was like, oh, well, maybe they kind of are. And then I talked to Dennis Porter, and he explained to me the block wars, because I didn't know about that at the time. It was early on. And so he was pleading the case for
humble don't toxic. Seem to go together. I couldn't work out where you're going here.
So anyways, I think the name is, I do believe that it's fitting. The way I was brought up, it was always to, nobody's better than anyone else. And I think that's one of the things that pisses me off the most in life, is when you have people that have this ego that is just insane, and you see how they treat other people. And you know what? We all came from the same place, and and it's why do that? Like, you guys are my brothers. Anyone, even if they're doing things I don't like, they're still my brothers and my sisters. It's the way it is. We're all made pretty uniquely, and I appreciate that now as an adult.
Very well said. Very well said. And just to add to your point, right? Like humility does not consist in thinking of ourselves more ordinary than others. It's just having a clear understanding that every person is different and special and unique, right? So it's having that clear understanding. And so don't think of it so much as like, is that humble?
I'm not sure I think everyone's unique, Phil. I don't think everyone's unique, but everyone has the potential to be unique. But a lot of people don't choose to necessarily grow. They just copy other lifestyles rather than kind of choosing their own path. But I think, yeah, the concept of humility is, I think, intertwined to some degree with pleb nature itself.
Yeah.
You know, we might be arrogant with our opinions, but we try to be more humble with our actions, maybe. As you know, the guy with the blue profile picture and the baseball cap that Affinity scammed Kendrick Lamar said, sit down and stack sats.
All right, that wraps up the guest spot, and we are moving on over to REKT.
Up next, we have REKT, sponsored by Represent. If you head on over to representltd.com, you can find a wide selection of quality garments and accessories, in a range of colors, and soon something very exciting if you watch this space. But Represent have been known to make incredible shirts like this one, which you can't buy, but I have one. Yeah, Taco Pleb Underground Represent. We had a phenomenal event which Represent also sponsored down in Miami. Taco Plebs, the second annual event. It was phenomenal. Thank you, Represent. Thank you, David. And guys, if you want to thank Represent, or you want to see some of their incredible garments, please head over to representltd.com and use the code PlebUnderground to get a discount on all the goodies. Our first story for REKT this week. What has been REKT? Well, democracy and the idea that truth is being disseminated online when fact checkers are literal spooks. Here we see Aaron B. He, him. Misinformation policy at Meta. Former CIA. Now, can anyone really be former CIA? Who knows? Let's have a little look at his history, his historical work. So he was he was previously at the Central Intelligence Agency for 17 years and 5 months, and has since worked at Facebook for the last 4 years, focusing on managing policy, misinformation, and now lead for elections content. Isn't that interesting? I mean, it doesn't probably seem very surprising to you guys, but I'd love to hear your thoughts. Yeah, literal spooks running preventative measures against misinformation on social networks.
I got to be honest, I'm actually unsurprised, but also very worried, right? Like, why does Facebook need a person heading up a department like that? Like, I feel like there's this strange kind of entitlement where these platforms feel like they can just be the police. And for some reason we, not all of us, but the majority of us have managed to give them this right to essentially become this thought police. And it's really scary. Like, they shouldn't have a position like that. They're completely irrelevant, like they should not have a position like that. They should not be trying to influence anything like that. It should just simply be the free flow of information, to be perfectly honest. But obviously we know that's not going to happen. The other piece to this is this: what a lot of people don't know about the CIA at Facebook is that they actively, there is a department within Facebook that actively looks at people's posts, right? And they are still working for the CIA. You can say that they're ex-CIA, but don't be fooled. These people still work for the CIA. Because keep in mind, if the right type of information shows up, all of a sudden, right? All of a sudden, their CIA capabilities just spring to life. It's remarkable. It kind of reminds me of the Agent Smith, right? In the Matrix, right, where every single person is an Agent Smith given the right conditions.
Sleeper cells.
That's bingo. Yeah, I know it sounds totally tinfoil hat. Humble. Hopefully, we're not freaking you out too much, but
Oh, no. I think it's. What do you expect? I mean, it is Facebook, right? So I have a friend who actually is running an ad. They're doing a course for diabetes, and their content got flagged. So it's an ad that they're paying for, but it got flagged because of offensive content. And well, why would it be offensive? Because you have something like overweight in there, because diabetes runs rampant in people that are overweight typically, right? So
because shame has been made illegal in society for
yes.
things that are healthy, right? Like
Right.
promoting healthy lifestyle is more shameful than what? Than like, I don't know. But why can't people come to terms with reality? There's too much cope wrapped up in this nonsense.
Yeah, well, because if you're promoting a healthy lifestyle, you're making the people who don't have healthy lifestyles feel bad, and you don't want to do that because nobody wants their feelings hurt. So
education is offensive.
That's where we are.
I disagree. I think fat people should feel bad about themselves and should use that to actually get fit. I was never fat, but I kind of did it myself. I've lost 45 pounds net over the last 2 years by just not making any more excuses. Yeah, okay, you need some time to do it, but like at some point it comes down to, are you going to stop making excuses, or are you going to continue making excuses?
So I think that there's I think that there's, even though this has nothing to do with Bitcoin, but since we're talking about this, I can't help it, because we see it all around us, and there's nothing wrong with sitting there and thinking that, you're beautiful, the way you are and all of that stuff. And also at the same time, recognizing that it is unhealthy, right? To be, to be obese, and that you would be much better served by working to lose weight and eating healthier. There's you don't have to actually feel shame. You just have to simply love yourself. That's all it is. It's not even about shame. And this is how pathetic we've become. Like, that's it. We immediately go to the worst freaking extreme. Shame. That's it. I'm shamed. It's like, no.
But you should feel bad about
self-love. You should love yourself enough.
But essentially, it's about,
not about Bitcoin, but it is
for your future self. Are you doing something for your future self or not? Is what it comes down to, and that's where it's. I guess in life, Bitcoin, right? This is all about time preference. This is all about, are you trying to actually build for the future? Are you trying to have tomorrow be a better day for today for you and the people around you, or rather, maybe not day, maybe zoom out, right? Like, don't be myopic, but yeah, you got to be building. Otherwise, I don't think stasis is possible. And I don't think it's natural either. I think whenever humans try and strive for stasis, that's when things start going wrong, because you're trying to keep things as they are, and things move. Things are dynamic. You have to cultivate the flow of how it goes, and that's challenging, right? Balance is very, very difficult, but you have to try, and you have to keep trying to learn.
Well, and you're saying it's not about Bitcoin, right? But I'm going to throw this out there, because for me, like, I lost a significant amount of weight, actually. It's a whole other story, and it will take way too long to explain. But for me, my realization was proof of work, right? So with the proof of work model and understanding how everything works, like, you can't fake it. You can't sit here and be like, oh, well, I'm trying, or, oh, well, like, yeah, these are the results I'm getting with what I'm doing, right? Because you aren't, like, it's all about the proof of work. And so you put in the work, you have that look in the mirror that you don't want to do when you're overweight, and you're just like, oh shit, like, I don't want to. You shame yourself, like this whole thing about fat shaming, and, oh God, no, you don't want people to be fat. No, like, you look at yourself in the freaking mirror and you're like, I'm ashamed of myself. And I know what other people are thinking, because I'm thinking that, right? And so you get on that road of no more excuses. This is my proof of work. I'm either putting in the work and seeing results, or I'm just saying that I am, and then it's not actually doing anything, So for me, there's very much this alignment with coming into the Bitcoin space, learning about Bitcoin, and then the proof of work and what that means, and incorporate that into my life. And I think it goes far beyond that. And it's a whole other conversation as it pertains to your tolerance for small talk and, all these different things like, okay, there's only so much time in the day. Like you value time so much more. So yeah, I just thought I'd throw that out there.
No, very good point. Very good point. I mean, let's be honest, right? The coal doesn't become a diamond by just leaving it alone and telling it to, that it's super happy doing absolutely nothing and loving itself. Like that's not how it works, right? It takes extreme pressure to create diamonds. So
the big story this week for REKT is the subprime trust crisis continuing. Here, some excellent reporting from our guest this week, looking into what happened to Prime Trust and how did they actually then move the coins? Because what happened here? Humble, maybe you can talk us through what you came across this week.
So to be honest, I did a lot of research when FTX collapsed, and that's where most of my the breadth of knowledge that I have as it pertains to Prime Trust overall, and how immersed they were and integrated with all of, like Signature Bank and just everybody at that time. So that's what piqued my interest in Prime Trust. And just when you're kind of investigating things, you want to look for the commonalities, and they were like every single time they were there. So I was like, oh, wow, what's going on with them? And there were a lot of other people that had concerns too. I know Magoo was one that, he started talking about these companies, I think a little bit before I put pulled the trigger on putting some posts out there back then. So this week, it's just crazy. There's a lot of talk about the clawbacks. I think that's where a lot of people are getting in hot water because nobody really knows. But there seems to be enough advice from people that are lawyers, and they may not be for.
Can I just pause there so we can just give a bit more of a history for people who are coming across this story for the first time? So,
sure, yeah.
So Prime Trust essentially lost a whole bunch of cryptocurrency and then rebought it with customers' fiat. And then played some shenanigans, Madoff style for a little while or whatever it is. I'm not calling it Ponzi, but there was fraud, right? There was clear fraud. And then exchanges who were using these, shitcoin broker custodians, but pretending to be Bitcoin only and virtue signaling a whole bunch, then suddenly knew to move their customers' funds to a new entity, Fortress Trust, run by exactly the same people, just days before the collapse. And is that even legal? Because if the Bitcoin was bought fraudulently, then doesn't it get clawed back by Prime Trust? So then how can the exchange move it? Isn't the exchange then liable to the trust? Who owns the Bitcoin?
Who owns the Bitcoin? That is the ultimate question.
Your keys, not your coins, right? I guess.
We do know that Prime Trust.
But let's see how much this holds down, right? Like if you're a customer and you've used Prime Trust and then you withdraw Bitcoin, but you get an angry letter from the state ordering you to return that Bitcoin. Otherwise, there's going to be some sort of legal proceedings. Here's a test for you guys. If do you actually? How much are you going to stand up to the state on the not your keys, not your coins issue? This is I guess, relatively minor one, right? Why should you give some Bitcoin back to some idiots who committed fraud and then used a bunch of lawyers to somehow still have some power? Nonsense, right? But we'll see.
Well, and I think one of the very frustrating parts about that is with Prime Trust, the way they were operating in general, they were operating in a lot of states without having a money transmitter license. And by doing that, they knew what they were doing. And so there are people that, without this whole thing blowing up recently, if the state suddenly comes in and says, oh, hey, you're under investigation, and unless you agree to these terms, blah, 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 and there's a settlement, then people can't remove their Bitcoin, they can't do it. And so they knowingly did this in these different states, in my opinion, based on the research that I've done, right? So, and I think that's either in part, like just do your own research and find it out on your own. All the information's out there. But it's disappointing to see a company run that way. You know, it's like, you guys just, it's messed up. Like, why are you doing that to people? It's very, I don't know, reminds me of a bank personally, but don't go there.
They can.
I mean, trusts are often where banks put their money. So, you know. Yeah, so Gold Leader here asking a question, essentially that I asked in not such a succinct way before. But what happened if Prime Trust, it ignored that they weren't meant to rebuy. They ignored the law essentially and just did what they did. Corey thinks there's no effect on Swan users. Like I said, we'll see what happens with letters in the post, letters in the mail. I don't know. And let's have a little look here at Magoo's timeline. So Magoo says that in 2020, Prime Trust migrated assets to Fireblocks. In January 2021, Prime Trust introduced legacy wallets. In August 2021, the founder and CEO leaves Prime Trust. Just a month later, 2 months later, he starts Fortress Trust Company. And then the same month, Prime Trust claims that the CEO, I assume they mean that they must mean the current CEO, initiated an unauthorized transfer to Fortress. Essentially, there was some sort of transfer of funds inappropriately. Prime Trust apparently then discovered in December 2021 they didn't have access to legacy wallets. And over the time since, they tell their customers, they sell customers fiat to buy the crypto to process withdrawals. Like this is I guess it's a Ponzi, but not where they're trying to make returns on it. They just lost the keys, right? And so they've got they're in a huge hole. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm sure glad that I've not bought Bitcoin through these sorts of platforms. I think it's very easy to go, oh, I want to buy from a Bitcoin only company, but if they're not vertically integrated, are you really doing that?
So we've been covering this now for I think like 2-3 weeks, and we've been covering this in the clips, right? Using a lot of the research from Humble. So we really appreciate you diving into this, as Walton said before. So to your point, Walton, it's incredibly difficult, and it's disappointing, right? That essentially all we did was port the fiat mindset. Not us personally, but just these people that chose to set up these institutions, right? They essentially ported the fiat mindset and brought it into Bitcoin. So rather than choosing to do the right thing and set up the Bitcoin custodianship in a way that protects it, its customers and itself, and doesn't rehypothecate or commingle your funds or does whatever the hell it is that they were doing. Right. Instead, we're still having this high time preference where people are trying to milk the scene as quickly as possible for as much as possible. Now, I do want to point out that Francis Pulio from Canada, he has bull Bitcoin, and I know that we don't have that here in the States, but I can say this: that guy has done that right. And if we could figure out a way to do this here, I mean, there's no reason for us not to do it here. Because when you buy Bitcoin through the Bull Bitcoin exchange, you have no choice but to provide an output wallet. Like, you have to provide an address. You can't purchase the Bitcoin without an address. So you have no choice but to do an immediate withdrawal. So it's not just pandering, it's not just talking, it's not just saying, hey guys, make sure you do the right thing. Even though we're kind of doing the wrong thing for you, you do the right thing. But it's legitimately like, you don't have a choice but to do the right thing. It doesn't matter what I say, right? Like, you're just going to do the right thing. Anyways, I find that it is disheartening, but I don't think that we can be very surprised, because Prime Trust, from the beginning, anybody who did their research saw they were always supporting shitcoins. So this is not really right. Like it's not a surprise, but I think that I think what is shocking to people is the incompetence, seemingly from what we're seeing, right? The incompetence and just the fact that it seems like they've been insolvent for 2 years. So that's pretty crazy. That's what it looks like.
Right. To me, this calls into question is the level of due diligence being done by Bitcoiners that run around screeching, "Don't trust, verify." Like, what due diligence are you doing on the companies that you invest in? What due diligence are you doing on the suppliers to the companies that you're, owning or investing in? Like, or is it just all about talking, so you can pump for an IPO in a few years?
Incentives matter. Oh, go ahead, Humble.
Oh no, I mean that's a very strong point when it comes to the verification process. I mean, that's one of the things that really, obviously with the banking experience that I had, like verification is huge and everybody was talking about it, like verify, don't trust anybody. Totally made sense to me because I trusted the bank, right? And so then to see that unfold, when I was investigating Prime Trust, when the FTX collapse had occurred, I don't know, it was kind of depressing because I'm like, how are all of these people just kind of blindly following? They're not really verifying. There was enough information back then that, they were involved in Terra and I mean, just all sorts, just you name it, they were involved in it. So yeah, it's very sad.
No one goes against their Hopium dealer. I'm just saying it's when you're the one providing the Hopium and the platform and all the good words, nobody goes against the Hopium dealers. Okay. And you can tell because when you go and put out a tweet that talks about reality, right? You get like 5 or 6 likes because everybody's afraid that the Hopium dealers are going to see who liked it. And they're going to get mad. Anyways, it's so pathetic.
Apparently, Phil, that some shitcoiners have found a way to they don't feel the effects of the Hopium, and that's because they're taking methadone instead.
I always love your play on words, Walton.
Yeah, I felt like that one. Like,
it sounded better in your head, most likely. That was. It's okay. I don't even try because mine would just suck. So at least yours makes sense.
I don't know. There's always shitcoiners droning on about meth, right? So it's, I don't know.
Oh god, that's okay. Those guys are wrecked. All right, guys. All right, that wraps up REKT, and we are gonna move on over to the Hopium.
The Hopium.
The Hopium is brought to you by CryptoCloaks. Check them out, cryptocloaks.com. Awesome 3D prints made by fellow Bitcoiners, such as the 3D printed grenade. That's right. You can fit an open dime, get the bigger one, and you can fit a signing device. Use our code PlebUnderground for 5% off. And don't forget to use our affiliate link so CryptoCloaks actually knows that you're checking out the show. Check them out, cryptocloaks.com. Don't forget to use our code PlebUnderground for 5% off. All right, guys, despite all the REKT and the savagery that we just went through in REKT, believe it or not, there actually is Hopium. Okay, and we are going to dive into some of this Hopium. Here we go. Link from Bitcoin Magazine. North Carolina House passes bill directing state treasury to study the process of buying and holding Bitcoin. The bill now goes to the Senate. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I think that they earmarked like $50,000 for this study or something like that. We can save them a whole lot of work. They should just buy Bitcoin. That's it. They can just study it like that. But I digress. I do think that this is Hopium and bullish. I guess, you know what? Before we move on to the main part of the story, I just want to get your guys' thoughts on this. We'll start with Humble. Humble, nothing burger or something worthwhile? What are your thoughts?
Well, it seems like there's more and more developments with the states wanting to learn a little bit more. I see a couple organizations that are pretty involved in going out there. What organization was it that just gave books to the members of Congress and Senate? Do you remember what one that is?
I saw that.
But yeah, I mean, it just regardless, there are some moves being made, and it's nice to see that there are Bitcoiners on the ground out there trying to inform them. Who knows what will happen though, right? Because you're giving them the information, but what are they actually going to do with it?
Curious as to what their findings are. Walton, thoughts? Bullish, bearish, nothing burger, hopium, what? Something?
Flip a coin.
Yeah. I agree. I'm kind of, exactly. It's like, it's nice, but meh. Okay, moving on. All right, guys, the big news this week, last week, all of the legacy finance, or we should say the big players in legacy finance, are starting to stake their claim in Bitcoin. Here we go. The financial giants who filed for a spot ETF, not necessarily approved, filed. BlackRock, Fidelity, VanEck, ARK Investments, WisdomTree, Valkyrie, Bitwise, Invesco. Institutional adoption is here. And you know what? It's kind of funny. I remember that from 2017, 2018 too. The institutions are coming. Just wait. Okay? The institutions are coming. Anyways. And the institutions have been here this whole time, even if it's been indirect. Now, let's continue on, because today we got a little bit of noise in the market, and some people, especially on the West Coast, woke up to a Bitcoin fiat exchange price that kind of made them look twice. Bitcoin briefly falls below 30K as the SEC says spot Bitcoin ETF filings are inadequate, and specifically they are talking about BlackRock's Bitcoin ETF. Now, right now, most of the information that we have on this is vague, but I do believe that we've been able to dig up something pretty decent here, because a lot of, anyways, as you'll see, not really giving any reasons. The US SEC stated that the filing of spot Bitcoin ETFs was insufficient, and regulators told NASDAQ that recent filings by companies such as BlackRock and Fidelity were not clear and comprehensive. So they give this nothing burger excuse that is completely vague and call it not clear and comprehensive. The SEC returned the documents. Okay, so we did a little diving and we got a little more information on this. Great article out of Forbes Advisor, BlackRock's Bitcoin ETF, what you need to know. And this actually just came out. This was actually just at the time, a few hours before this recording. Okay, so let's dive into it. The market regulator has only been comfortable, they're talking about the SEC, has only been comfortable with greenlighting funds that track cryptocurrency futures or own the stocks of companies with indirect exposure to crypto. So to me, they're only approving things that are like leveraged paper trading, right? They don't want to deal with the with essentially actually providing the physical, right, the physical Bitcoin at the time of settlement, or the physical assets at the time of settlement. Anyways, let's continue on. BlackRock is proposing a fund that would follow rules specifically addressing concerns the SEC has cited in rejecting others' past applications. It would close loopholes like an absence of a mechanism for ensuring that customer assets cannot be diverted by the exchange to an unauthorized party. That's right, guys. That was one of the problems with the FTX crypto exchange. Here they are. The legacy system, which keep in mind, right? We had the dot-com bubble. We had the market crash of 1987. We had the mortgage crisis. So clearly this system that regulates and saves everyone is going to step in and save the day for everybody. And see, look, they've cited the problems, and they're going to make sure that these problems that happen with these little crypto exchanges, they're going to fix this stuff, okay? It looks like BlackRock studied the SEC's lawsuits against Binance and Coinbase Global. Then its own application described how it would avoid problems the SEC had described. So you can see they did their homework, okay? They did their homework with this. One of the SEC's key concerns about a spot Bitcoin ETF is the potential for market manipulation. This is gaslighting, and I find this to be total clown world bullshit. Okay, so but I will continue. The BlackRock filing proposes a surveillance sharing agreement that could minimize that risk. The newer filings include similar proposals. Other firms are proposing similar steps to address the SEC's concerns. It's extremely coincidental that all of the proposals took place within a few weeks of the SEC lawsuits against Coinbase and Binance. Those entities, especially EDX and BlackRock, are proposing solutions that satisfy the concerns that the SEC has mentioned. Okay, so this is, I mean, look, this is pure clown world, gaslighting, projection, bullshit. Walton, your thoughts?
I mean, pretty much what you just said. Do you mind pulling up the second link, Phil? I had a question. It slipped me, but there was right. Okay. Yeah, I want to know how it's possible to bet against BlackRock being approved for an ETF, because I imagine the odds were probably pretty in favor of, as in you would get an incredible payout probably if it failed. I wouldn't be surprised if some SEC regulator is actually betting, like insider trading on the approval of the ETF, you know, betting against it and then denying it like themselves. It wouldn't surprise me now. Do I have any evidence for this? No. But the question I ask in these sorts of things is, well, who wins? Who wins from the ETF being denied? Someone that could win would be someone betting against it in some way, shape, or form. Maybe it's not the regulator themselves. Maybe it's a couple of orders of separation from that person because they're not complete idiots. Maybe it's like a Pelosi sort of situation where you've got it's the husband or whatever trading on behalf of the regulator. I don't know, but follow the money. There'll be something.
Yeah, that's a good point. Humble, what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on the whole, the Bitcoin ETF? Tell us.
Well, I think especially with the moves that were made today with it being denied, it's all theatrics. And so they've, in my opinion, there's just this plan and there's certain things they have to do along the way. And yeah, as far as that article goes, where they're talking about surveillance, I mean, that's laughable. Seriously. Like, oh, okay, that's going to do it. It's going to get approved now. Look at that surveillance.
I have one further thought.
They're going to have
the final comment they make. Oh, it's entirely coincident that these ETF approvals have been filed since the Binance and the Thing lawsuits. That's actually them saying, "Hey, banks, asset managers, or hedge funds, etc., fund managers, guys, just back off like 6 months. Come back, otherwise it's too obvious that we're rugging the crypto bros and taking all their money. Come on, you got to be a bit more subtle on this." But apparently telling everyone as well. But I think that might be what it is. Actually, we're pretending. You'll pass next time. Don't worry, guys. Don't worry.
At this point, it just seems like everybody just thinks everybody else is dumber than them. So it's like, yeah, let's just tell them what we're doing. And I mean, look, we've already shown time and time again that the regulators don't regulate anything. This is all just projection and gaslighting. They don't actually fix any of these things. They don't stop. Keep in mind, our entire market history is the history of booms and busts. We've had regulators the whole time.
It's the blind lady in Big Short, right? They're just gonna go down the street to Moody's or whatever. Like the regulators play the games, they take their cuts, and do they help people?
So guys,
ask Warren G.
Yeah, you know what? This is why we always tell people to zoom out. Don't listen to the noise, right? Don't listen to the noise. I still remember this in 2017. Every single day you'd have news of either some Bitcoin exchange being shut down or some country banning Bitcoin, and then the price would just go up, and the Bitcoin fiat exchange would just constantly fluctuate. Hey, listen, if you're stacking sats, that's an opportunity. Okay, that is an opportunity. And if you know what, if I could finish by saying this, we were at like 31K, okay, USD before that news came out. And now we're just sitting at like 30. So guys, this was a giant nothing burger. Okay. And this is why we call this shit Hopium. Okay. Because that's really what it is. This is why you got to do your research, learn about the Bitcoin ecosystem, and see the actual development that is going on, because this is the stuff that matters. This news is going to change every day. Mr. Market is going to give you something new every day. Okay. It's going to be good some days, bad some days. Doesn't matter. Okay. Anyways, guys, that wraps up the Hopium. Guys, we are going to take a look at the BtcPayServer update. That's right. Once a month, we provide you guys a BtcPayServer update. Why? They are an awesome, they're just an absolutely amazing open source project in the space. They're so good, okay, that people actually think that they are a corporation, but they are not, okay? They rely on our donations, all right? So this is an open source project that lives on donations. They just had a brand new version drop, 1.10.3. The brand new feature is the pull payments. They've got support for LN URL. Check it out, BtcPayServer. Next month, we have this planned. We have a very special guest for the episode that we're going to do, the BtcPayServer update. We've been able to get Nicholas Dorier. That's right. So Walton woke up the rockstar dev, brought him back from the dead, and now we are going to have the man, the myth, the legend himself, Nicholas Dorier, joining us. And guys,
what's incredible, Phil, it's like he knew he was coming on the show soon, and so he wanted to look good on this update. You can see here once again with also Dennis. I don't know Dennis, but good for Dennis and Nicholas, reminding us once again that bugs need to be fixed, not eaten, and here leading the way, showing us the hard work to impress before he comes on in a few weeks' time.
That's right. That is absolutely right. All right, guys, that wraps up our episode this week of Pleb Underground. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Help us fight the evil YouTube algorithm. That's right. I've decided that the YouTube algorithm is evil. And don't forget to check us out on our audio-only platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor. If you want to stream us sats, check us out on fountain.fm. You can stream us sats through Breeze. All right, Walton, how do we end this one? Oh, wait.
Fuck shitcoins.
That's right. Fuck shitcoins.
Damn it.
But hold on. Humble, thank you so much for joining us on our episode. This was absolutely awesome. Thank you.
Thank you for having me, guys. It was awesome.
Very cool. All right. We'll catch you next week, guys.
Fuckshitcoins.com. Please like and subscribe. See you next week.